Are they serious? SpaceX is ready for Flight 7. When can we expect the launch? 2025 will be a game changer as Starship paves the way for fully reusable rockets. What's SpaceX's timeline from here on? Multiple new reusable launchers, a fleet of landers heading to the moon, all in 1 year? My name is Felix, welcome to What About It? Let's dive right in. Starship updates. 2024 has been a monumental year in spaceflight, shattering records and paving new ground towards our future in space. But while 2024 has been one of the most busy years since the original space race, it's got nothing on what will happen in 2025. But how is that even possible? From missions to the moon and Mars to dozens of new rockets to full reusability becoming a reality, 2025 is set to go down in the history books as the year SpaceX's changed forever. 2024 has already been an incredible year. Can 2025 really top a booster getting caught by chopsticks, a mission to a moon of Jupiter, or even watching a crew capsule attempt to carry crew? Okay, well, let's hope we don't top the last one, but put simply, for everything else, definitely, and that's not even close. Let's look at it from a launch perspective. 2024 now has the record of the most rocket launches in a single year ever, topping 2023's record. This record primarily exists due to SpaceX launching their Starlink constellation of satellites. But with multiple companies planning to start launching competitors to Starlink next year, that is sure to increase even further. That is of course on top of SpaceX continuing to grow its launch cadence, which has already reached an average of a launch every 3 days. Except now it won't just be one company doing all the work, others are finally starting to pick up the pace too. This higher launch cadence by all parties will lead to 2025 having another record-breaking year of launches too, and likely not just by a little bit. Spaceflight as a whole will just be a lot busier, and it really is beginning to reach a stage of exponential growth. SpaceX is set to launch Starship's Flight 7 in a few weeks from now, making it the perfect start to that busiest year ever. Some of this launch growth will also be caused by new vehicles coming online, and 2025 is set to be a record year for that too. While 2024 saw vehicles like Vulcan and Ariane 6 finally coming online, 2025 is set to be off the charts. We'll finally see truly reusable rockets designed from the ground up to be cost-effective and competitive with the likes of the Falcon 9 come online. Starting with what should be the first one, New Glenn. This gigantic rocket was set to launch around now. However, it has run into some minor delays and has thus been pushed back to 2025, where it fits much better as it will be one of many reusable rockets possibly coming online. New Glenn had a bit of a head start, so it's set to be the second rocket to launch something to orbit and land. Its capabilities and price are likely competitive with SpaceX's Falcon Heavy, but there is one rocket that may undercut it and even Falcon 9. Rocket Lab's Neutron. This vehicle was announced in 2021 by a very hungry Peter Beck, and has undergone a rapid development process. It'll be a partly reusable medium lift rocket, a bit smaller than the Falcon 9, however there is one major difference. It's not fully reusable, as the second stage is currently designed to be disposable, but on the upside, its cost was considered. It is extremely cheap, with a cost target of $50 million per launch, lower than the estimated $65 million per launch of Falcon 9. But that is just scratching the surface. Neutron is set to be one of at least a dozen brand new rockets from all over the world set to come online, with many of them possibly being reusable, from China's Zhuque 3 to Europe's RFA 1. It is insane. And with all these new reusable rockets and upcoming launches, space is set to open up. But there is one vehicle that will finally be launching into orbit next year, and it is set to dominate the headlines and likely the history books. But before I tell you about that, help us improve the channel even further by double checking that you've hit that subscribe button so you don't miss our updates. And while you're at it, give us a like and become a wise supporter. Why? Because you'll gain access to a massive amount of extra content immediately. Daily new Starbase photo galleries, including all those we've posted so far. Satellite, aerial and ground photos. We've just hit 1,000 posts since our Patreon account was created. Up to 7 picture galleries per week, insights, chats with me, you name it. Thank you so much, you rock. Now back to Starship. It's so far completed 7 highly successful near-orbital launches, and they plan on multiplying that count by 5 or 4. It'll be a lot. 25 launches are planned for 2025. And while launching bananas as payload is pretty good entertainment, these aren't going to be just for fun. They're intended to be learning experiences. When your aim isn't to replicate the partial reusability of Falcon's line of ships, things are getting very interesting. Starship is intended to be a completely reusable ship, sharing more qualities with commercial airliners than competing rockets of today. SpaceX isn't interested in today. It's worth remembering that this year Starship became the first mechanically caught rocket booster and the second orbital class vehicle capable of launching and returning propulsively. Before 2025, they also want to catch the ship. The current goal is to have that happen on the 8th flight, which could commence as soon as February if everything goes to plan. And if that wasn't enough icing on the cake, Flight 8 is also set to be the first time Starship reaches orbit, which would make it the largest rocket to ever do so since Saturn V. Because once SpaceX catches the ship, they will have the world's first and only fully reusable rocket. Not rapidly reusable yet, but we're getting there as well. It would be quite the set of accomplishments already, and yet we're just talking about February. There are still 10 more months to go and hopefully 23 more launches. That alone is enough to cement 2025 in the history books, but it's only the start of the goals of Starship for next year. After the first successful catch, SpaceX will likely fly Starship on a similar flight path to validate all of the systems and any of the ongoing changes that may have been needed so far, similarly to Flight 6. SpaceX might also refly its first booster around this time, possibly on Flight 9 or 10. I also expect they'll want to begin flying cargo on these flights. They'll be able to deploy the newer and larger Starlink satellites from it, crucial to both the programs and Starlink's survival, as it's currently the only vehicle capable of delivering the full-size version 2 satellites. While it's unlikely SpaceX will attempt to refly any of these earlier Starships at the current pace of development, as they are quickly becoming outdated, once they do refly an upper stage, spaceflight will never be the same again. So let's pretend for a moment SpaceX reflies the 4th ship that they land. That would put us at around Flight 5 for the year. What about the other 20? Will they all just be Starlink launches? Well, we think most of them will be Starlink launches, but there are quite a few more things to test for the program to be fully backed. Being fully reusable is just one of Starship's revolutionary technologies. Most important among them is the first test of orbital refueling. With this new technology, Starship will be able to deliver over 100 tons to basically anywhere in the solar system, and with full reuse, it can do it for cheaper than most modern rockets can get to a low Earth orbit. We've already seen parts of the next 5 ships to fly, and none appear to have hardware for orbital refueling. However, a ship can likely be retrofitted, if only meant for testing. It may take multiple flights before we see this happen, but before the middle of 2025 seems realistic. This brings us to the last major Starship milestone we may see in 2025, a lunar landing demonstration. Don't shake your heads just yet. While this might seem unlikely to you and possibly me, experts at SpaceX and NASA are saying something different. Currently, the stated timeline for a Starship lunar landing is 2025. However, orbital refueling is needed for this, and it could take up to 10 flights to refill the tanks. That number is still very much an unknown and could be even more or less. Either way, it would make up almost half of the Starship launches next year, which seems unlikely. Dr. Kent Chojnacki, the deputy manager of NASA's Human Landing System program, confirmed the 2025 target in an interview with Spaceflight Now on October 30, 2024. Recently, it was also announced that the US's return to the moon on Artemis 3 would be delayed until at least 2027. This means this demo can likely be done a bit later, possibly in 2026 if necessary, but SpaceX is full of surprises, so is it still possible? What do you think? Will we see a Starship land on the moon in 2025? Let me know in the comments. Whether or not Starship lands there next year, the moon will be full of activity with at least 5 missions currently planned. Interestingly, all currently planned lunar missions in 2025 are set to fly on SpaceX's Falcon family of rockets. SpaceX will be going to the moon in a way no matter what. 2 of these should launch in January, with Blue Ghost appearing on track to start the year in just a few days. It'll be Firefly's first attempt at landing on the moon. As part of NASA's Commercial Lunar Payload Services, or CLPS program, it will deliver a variety of commercial payloads from all over the US. The other mission in January is the second mission of Hakuto-R from iSpace. They had a failed landing attempt in 2023 and crashed after a guidance malfunction. Just like the last one, this is meant mainly as a tech demonstrator with only a small rover as a notable payload. They need to show that they can design and execute a moon landing before being trusted with more. Hopefully this one will be more successful, along with the other lander attempting a second touchdown. Intuitive Machines Mission 2 for NASA's CLPS. This will be the second attempt to follow up on their first mission, which, while technically successful, tipped over on landing, limiting much of its use. After that, Intuitive Machines plans a third, larger mission for CLPS in October, which will build on the first 2 and deliver multiple payloads, including multiple rovers, to the moon. The final of the 5 moon missions set for 2025 is one more CLPS mission. This time it's Astrobotic's Griffin lander flying a brick to the moon. What? Okay, probably not a brick, but the original intent of this lander was to deploy NASA's Viper rover. However, delays on Astrobotics and caused the rover to be cancelled, leaving Griffin without a primary payload. That's a luxury problem to have. This will also be Astrobotic's second attempt at a lunar landing, as the last one saw the lander spring a leak which left it stuck in low Earth orbit before burning up. Landing on the moon is still a tough task, and it'll likely stay that way in 2025. Speaking of burning up in the atmosphere, the International Space Station will face a fairly similar fate relatively soon. Not in 2025, but soon. For the US at least, there still aren't any good options to replace it in space. However, 2025 should see a possible solution: the launch of the first commercial space station, the first in a new line of space destinations. While most of these are set to begin launching in 2026 and later, VAST's first station, Haven 1, is set for flight in August 2025, in 8 months from now. Yes! This is a highly ambitious timeline, to say the least, but VAST is already well into development and has shown its willingness to innovate. It also helps that Haven 1 is considered a minimum viable product. So, minimal viable space station? I don't know if I want to live there. No, this means this space station is extremely basic, with the visiting spacecraft, in this case SpaceX's Dragon, doing most of the work, such as providing the life support. Haven 1 should also see its first crew of space tourists next year, and they won't be alone. A few space tourism missions are currently planned, including an Axiom mission to the ISS around April, but that one is fairly standard. Fram 2, on the other hand, is quite exciting. This mission will be an all-private mission similar to Inspiration 4 or Polaris Dawn. Like those missions, it will push boundaries by being the first crewed mission to orbit the Earth's poles. SpaceX's Crew Dragon makes this mission possible, as it is one of only 3, maybe 4 vehicles capable of taking people to space right now. Sorry, Boeing. However, 2025 should see that change, as India has 3 uncrewed test launches of its Gaganyaan crew capsule scheduled. This would be India's first crew capsule, showing how global this space advancement is. It's not the only potential crewed vehicle set to launch next year either. Sierra Space is developing the Dream Chaser as a cargo spaceplane. It is also set to have its maiden flight next year. While it is just cargo now, it'll possibly later be adapted into a crewed variant. And if you like spaceplanes, 2025 really will be your year, as the European Space Agency is set to launch its Space Rider space sorta plane next year as well. Missions like this can help us learn more about all sorts of things, from the human body to engineering to astrophysics, but they can't teach us everything. Next year is set to have a ton of scientific missions as well. Starting with Escapade, which is the only mission set to launch to another planet next year. The Trin Rocket Lab built Escapade probes were initially meant to launch in 2024 on New Glenn's maiden flight. However, after some delays, the flight was pushed back to 2025 on a later New Glenn launch. This identical pair of probes is designed to study how Mars's magnetic field and atmosphere interacts with solar winds, in the hopes of learning how Mars became uninhabitable. which is a huge shame because we want to go there. Okay, there is actually one more mission launching that will be outside of Earth's orbit, but it won't be to a planet. Instead, it will head to an asteroid for China's first attempt at an asteroid sample return mission similar to that of Hayabusa or OSIRIS-REx. Asteroid sample returns seem to be the thing lately. On the topic of asteroids, while not launching, the Lucy mission will be flying by its second asteroid, Donald Johanson. What kind of name is that for an asteroid? While only a flyby, these can still teach us a ton, such as when Lucy passed by the asteroid Dinkenesh and discovered it was a binary system with a whole other asteroid orbiting it. Looking even further now, SpaceX's, which is set to launch around April of next year, is a near-infrared survey telescope. This means it will map the entire sky over the course of a few months to learn about the makeup of stars and galaxies while searching for points of interest for other more powerful telescopes such as James Webb to take a closer look. A fast scout telescope, so to speak. The problem with telescopes like James Webb is that they are really good at looking at a tiny spot in the sky, but very bad at getting a general overview. SpaceX is fixing this. Another telescope that will be launched is IMAP, which will study our heliosphere, the area where the sun's magnetic field and solar winds interact with cosmic radiation. That is the edge of what our sun is able to influence. After that, there is only interstellar space. Overall, 2025 is set to be a truly revolutionary year in spaceflight, with dozens of new trailblazing missions, new launchers coming online, and expanding capabilities. 2025 will be remembered as a turning point for humanity among the stars, and many other people will be able to see that too, which brings me to the one thing I am looking forward to the most next year: the unknown. As companies and agencies begin to realize the true scale of Starships and other vehicles' capabilities, we will see an increasing number of projects set to match them. We've already seen a few of these announced, however these are just the tip of the iceberg. As newly announced missions become cheaper and larger, companies that are staying on the old path will be forced to innovate or be left behind. Friss oder stirb is a German saying, eat or die. Now's the time to change or be forgotten. It's pretty simple. If more can be done with less, we will see more, likely even more than you realize. When getting something to space costs hundreds of millions of dollars and every ounce needs to be accounted for, costs can balloon as more exotic materials or engineering designs are used to reduce weight. In the old space world, layers of redundancy were needed, and testing was completed to ensure it worked on the first try. But if it only costs $1 million to launch something twice that weight, you can launch 100 missions with cheap, heavy components. Even if half fail, that's still 50 missions that would likely be the same price as one right now. I wouldn't be surprised if agencies like NASA and the private sector announced tons of new missions next year utilizing an approach like this. They've already started with programs like CLIPS and Escapade, which were completed at fractions of the cost and time of other missions. This is huge for startups as it lowers the barrier to entry and opens up a whole new market. With all the new things coming online next year, I suspect that when we talk about what we are looking forward to in 2026, it will be even crazier. That's it for today. Remember to smash that like button, subscribe for more. This is what fuels the algorithm, and this is how you can help us for free. Check out our epic shirts in your favorite Space Nerd store. A new Raptor design and our brand new Starship Block 2 design are both up. Link is in the description and in the card you should see now. Also, check out our print store at shop.whataboutit.space to buy a picture for your favorite wall. A significant amount of every purchase goes directly to our photographers, and if you want to train your space IQ even further, watch this video next to continue your journey. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you again in the next episode. On the 8th flight, bro. Yeah. Only all of it survives with love? No, that won't work. 2 of these should launch in January with no. Hopefully, come on, it's scrolling up and down. Attempt at an asteroid and I'm like, yeah, there it is. No.